So, for example, like there are a lot of laws that are passed against like multifamily dwellings in certain residential districts, and that might be a fine colorblind idea, but what it does, it excludes predominantly people of color into moving into like, basically just mobility, into letting them like move out of places where they might want.
Look, he's not saying anything. You realize this?
He's saying something. I think it's a stupid point.
What is the point?
The point, okay. So because he's like, oh, there are all these. So James implied that racialized laws don't exist anymore, and now Jangles is firing back, saying, oh, well, they exist, they're just not explicit. And the example he gives is that you can have multifamily dwellings that are often outlawed in nice suburban areas. Okay,
where I would miss that part.
Right now, I don't think it's worth necessarily getting into for the debate, like on stage. But I think this is a total bullshit point, and this is the problem with CRT. CRT comes to any problem, anything, as Sean likes to say, it's racism of the gaps. They come to any problem with the preconceived notion, the axiomatic belief that this is because of racism. Right. Any problem that exists is because of racism. So they look at this and they say, oh, there's all these nice neighborhoods, and they only allow single family dwellings.
Yeah.
Okay. So it must be because they want to keep out the non-white people. But that's fucking stupid. That's not at all why they want to do it. It's because all these fucking boomers want to keep their property value rising because it's the most expensive wealth generating asset they own.
Yeah.
And they think that, generally, if you have people that are living together, multiple families living together in a single property, that means that they are more likely to be lower income.
Is that a thing? I didn't even know there was multifamily. I mean, obviously there's apartments which are multifamily, but
well, that's part of it too, and also apartments. I mean, this is why you have all this stuff that's crazy in California too, with like the housing market being so insane out there. Is because all the people who are voting, on their little areas want to keep their property values as high as possible.
Of course we do.
Yeah, but so this is why this racial lens is so stupid. And this is, where we Team Truth come in. We're trying to come in saying, why does this situation exist? We're not saying, oh, let me take a preconceived lens, an axiomatic belief, and force the problem through it to justify my already preconceived notions that everything's racist.
Yeah.
You don't learn the truth that way.
No. Yeah, you get further away from the truth, obviously.
Right.
So
to move out of into other places.
Wait, is that a discrepancy that's based in their racial category? Is it a discrepancy that's based in economic status that correlates strongly with their race? Because if it's an economic issue that correlates with race, it's an economic issue. But if we take, again, Gloria Lad's...
Hey, great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. James is on it.
Billings explicit, again, I can quote the paper, critical race theory exists to make race the central construct for understanding inequality. It's a direct quote from Toward a Critical Race Theory of Education, 1995. Well, yes. Hold on. If that is what's going on, what we have is a case with the univariate fallacy being applied, where now everything that's a discrepancy, a disparate outcome, must be condensed down to being understood in terms of race. Now, you even said this in your definition. When you gave your definition, so let me use your definition against
critical
you now.
Race theory looks at race. Who would have thought? Of course it's going to play.
No.
Because it's the variable we're looking at.
No.
So, first of all, I'll applaud James for saying what I said, only way smarter and more succinctly.
Hell yeah.
That's why James is who he is. And then Jangle's answer to that is so horribly dishonest.
Yeah.
You're beginning to sway me. I forgot, because when I watched this conversation, I watched it like, I don't know, when it came out 3-4 weeks ago. So I forgot. That is such a dishonest answer.
The question is, does he know the argument that James is making for multi-factor analysis? I mean, he pitches himself as like the science guy, the guy who's going to bring in the peer-reviewed study. You'd think he would know about multivariate analysis.
Right. But it seems like he's making this bizarre argument like, oh, well, CRT is specifically designed to be a lens that views everything through race. It's like, yeah, that's the problem.
That's the problem. Yeah, exactly.
Like, you understand that, but then I don't know. I don't know. I assume his argument would be something like, well, I'm not saying everything should be looked at through the CRT lens. It's like, well, that's kind of what you're saying.
That's what he
kind of
just said.
CRT people are doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you would miss if there was another. Let's say the economic factor is 80% of the problem and race is 20% of the problem. You're
Right.
wasting a vast amount of time and resources if you're going to focus on the 20% by structuring all of society to focus on race when race isn't really the problem. It's an economic issue.
right. Well,
Yeah.
and also, as we said a million times, if you actually want to fix a problem, you need to know what causes the problem.
Yes.
Otherwise,
yes.
you're just throwing darts in the dark and hoping you're going to hit the bullseye. And more times than not, you're going to end up poking out your friend's eye and making the situation work. You're not going to
Yes.
hit the bullseye.
Yeah, this critical race theory, the whole purpose of the lens is just to amplify racism to gain political power. That's the way that I see it.
Coyote Dogue for $20 says, yes, good, Adam. Have a cookie. There you go. You get a cookie, Adam. Look at that.
Thank you. I love
Are
cookies.
you happy? You
Yeah.
get cookies.
Cookies are awesome.
BD for 25 Canadian. Thanks so much. BD says, let's make color blindness great again. A train all the way.
Hell yeah.
Choo-choo.
Choo choo. I like
There
it.
you go. There you go.
No, it makes race the central construct for understanding inequality. That's a very different thing than to say it uses race.
It uses race because that's what the variable that we're looking
It
at.
uses race as the determinant variable to all inequality, which is a bogus analysis. That's the kind of thing that
It's
Jangles
a
would
bogus
do.
analysis.
On what basis
Why
is
that's
that
not
a bogus
true?
analysis?
See, I don't know how Jangles can call himself like a science person and not completely accept what James is saying. Like, do you understand, Jangles, that there could be a multitude of factors that are affecting a certain person's situation, and to look at only one factor, you're gonna miss like everything else. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Right.
Accept it, Jangles. Accept it.
I didn't hear you, sir.
On what basis is analyzing inequality through the lens of race a bogus analysis?
No.
Only through
Yeah, see, he's totally schools him.
Again,
The
yeah,
lens of
again,
ra-
it's again. I can't tell if this is just stupidity or malice
Or bullshit.
or bullshit. Yes,
Yeah.
it's not. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's saying that that is the only variable that should be accounted for.
Right.
Right.
You see the problem here?
race.
On what
Analysis, that's
basis
why
is
that's
that
not
a bogus
true.
analysis?
I didn't hear you, sir.
On what basis is analyzing inequality through the lens of race a bogus analysis?
No.
Only through the lens of race. Because if there's any other variable, you've ignored every single possible other explanation. That's why.
What he's calling bogus is it's basically a reappropriation of the God of the gaps argument, except it's a racism of the gaps argument.
That's exactly
Essentially,
right.
you see a gap, you fill it with racism, much as in the atheist versus creationist debates. God was filled in whenever there was a gap, something that couldn't be explained, or even if it could be explained. Like one of the things that was brought up is children's discipline and the disparities in outcome between.
Thank you, Sean. Even though I
Yeah.
know you stole that from Devin Tracy. Racing of the Gaps, best persuasion ever.
He does.
I think
he,
that should-
he never stole it from. He credits Devin
I know.
Tracy all the time.
I know. I'm just giving him a hard time.
But
I know,
history is going to remember Sean for coming up with that because
That's true. That's
because
true.
history's totally unfair.
Devin has been banished to the shadow realm while
know.
Sean hasn't. So yeah, but no. So I think our strategy should just be whenever someone brings up some racism of the gaps thing, you just reply racism of the gaps. Period. No explanation. just give them that one little sentence. Just say boom, fuck off.
Yeah.
children in K through 12 education and their suspensions. And it's like, oh, look, black kids are disproportionately suspended more in K through 12 education. It's like, yeah, they're overrepresented in all our violent crime statistics. Why would we expect that to only start when they leave school and none of those problems would manifest there? So, like, we've had programs in this country.
See, this is what's terrible, too, because if you're only looking at racism as the source of the issue there, I mean, it could be so many other things. Like, why are these situations the way that they are? Why are the crime statistics what they are? Why are the detention statistics what they are? trying to shoehorn them into racism, I think is a super bad move. John McWhorter talks about this in his new book, Woke Racism. And he believes that these disciplinary problems with young blacks, especially males, were started when Jim Crow was first overturned, integration first started, and there genuinely were a lot of racist teachers, a lot of teachers that felt like blacks didn't belong in their classrooms.
Right.
And that perpetuated an anti-school pattern that even though the racist teachers are gone, generally most of the teachers are not racist now. There's probably a few, obviously, but now that those teachers are gone, the pattern still persists in young black males, where it's just not seen as cool to be scholastically oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So,
True.
which it's, I guess, would be the legacy of racism. But how do you?
Sargon yells.
That?
Sargon's yelling in the chat.
Single.
He says, "Single fucking mothers, Adam." There you go.
Do you think that's the
I think
issue?
that I think that is an issue, but there's a very, very interesting study which showed that it showed children's wealth in and how it compares to their parents' wealth, and it showed that among white males and white females, on average, children either have the same amount of wealth as their parents, when they grow up, or they have more on average, and they kind of chart it out. And now it's interesting because they show that black males generally have, on average, I think they have the same amount of wealth or less than their parents.
Yeah.
Or at least it's like a lot shittier than white people. But here's where things get weird. For black women, that's not true at all. Actually, black women were shown to be doing better than white women in terms of wealth generation if their parents were wealthy.
Interesting.
And then what's even more interesting is that then they compared black males that had single mothers or were raised by a mother and a father, and there didn't seem to be a difference that was statistically significant. So there is something strange that's happening that for some reason is just affecting black males. Of course, that study is true. That's just specifically affecting black males.
Yeah, I remember you showed me that study, and it's kind of freaky. It's like black males can't catch a break no matter what.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's ever really been addressed properly or looked into properly because everyone's so agenda driven on the topic.
So just to simplify it, the black males do worse as far as wealth generation, even if they aren't in a single mother situation. So single mother or two-parent family, they generally have the same terrible outcome. Which says exactly what John McWhorter's talking about, that it's a cultural pattern. It's like this is how culture works. It's passed down. And this, I mean, I've talked about this book before on the show, No Two Alike. Judith Rich, I think, is the author, where she basically just, I mean, it's a huge black pill. When she goes into the twin studies and finds that really parenting doesn't make any kind of difference whatsoever. Like,
I know.
If you have two identical twins that are separated at birth, and one is raised in a two-parent, plenty of resources environment, and one is raised in a terrible single mom environment, they generally have the same kind of attitudes and level of wealth creation, even though obviously the environment is completely different, which is I mean, she also in the book says one of the reasons, one of the main things that makes parenting kind of a non-thing is that the peer group does so much influence on people, how people grow up. So I think what John McWhorter is saying about the peer group of blacks in the blacks community, they have this, it's a meme. It's a thing that's just in the culture, that school is lame. School is not something we can succeed in, or we don't want to succeed in. School is something
you should not try to succeed in. Yeah. And you know what hurts that? What makes it even worse? We got a bunch of CRT piece of shits walking around saying, "Hey,
you're
being
oppressed.
on time is a white value."
Oh, I
Getting
know.
educated and getting a job and fitting into society, that's a white value.
But this is
and
why
you
they're doing
shouldn't
it.
engage in that behavior if you're not white. And that's part of why CRT is such a toxic, garbage piece of shit lens / ideology to teach children or for anyone to learn.